Sudha Live, our happy place. We meet on Fridays, my Friday evening here, as I wrap up the week here in California. And thank you to everybody who is hanging around with me to finish your week with me. And for those of you who are waking up to your Saturday morning into the weekend and still finding time for a time together here. So I posted a little video clip showing where I was. I hope the profile picture here also gave you a clue. So I have come to this town called Carpinteria, which is near Santa Barbara on one side and LA on the other side. In California, still in the same time zone. But I've come to LinkedIn Learning to the recording studios, and this whole week has been about recording and my next class, next course. I'm super excited. Given my work in generative AI and no code, I can tell you it's in generative AI. I can't tell you anything else when it's coming and more details, but as soon as I'm allowed to, I'll tell you. You'll be the first to hear. So it was a very interesting week. Um, so I actually thought I'll be able to come to the beach and then do the live from there, but given that we do it at 6 o'clock, sun has set, so I'm kind of not in the beach. You can see some greenery and stuff behind me, but it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful town. And the people I've been working with this week are so amazing, unbelievable. So, we talk about AI opportunities. And while I was doing the recording about generative AI, there's so much happening in the generative AI world. So that's what I'm going to do. So for those of you who are joining new, what I end up doing here is I will tell you a little bit about the jobs that I've collected for you through the week, different calls and opportunities, some events, and mostly I will spend my time on what's happening in the week, an analysis of that from a learning perspective, and what does it mean for us, right? Um, and this is streaming live on LinkedIn and on YouTube. I'm not watching YouTube, but it will record. So if you're following me on YouTube, you can just go see that one. And let me get started. Actually, what I wanted to do was one observation I had. This was my personal experience. So for those of you who have followed me, my work over many years, known that I come from product management and analytics background. So I love data, and I've done courses on value creation from data in IoT and autonomous vehicles and AI and whatnot. But when you're in a real situation, it's a very interesting experience. So I was supposed to drive up and come to Carpinteria. So I'm was coming to Santa Barbara, which was the nearest big city. And what happened was there was this big floods in Carpinteria. And what I ended up doing was I said, okay, can we drive today? Is it all right? And let's check. And what happened was um, there was all this map, right? The California state, from a national US level, they're tracking all the floods and all kinds of disasters. There's so much data. So for those of you who have taken my course on business, some courses on Business School of AI related to machine learning, I do all my classes with real hands-on example. Even if you're doing no code courses with me, I like to show you real data. I like you to go build stuff for real. And we've done it with mobility data, which is about data from cars and shared vehicles in cities collected by Open Mobility Foundation, or it is publicly available data which is about climate and disaster and whatnot. So here I had to drive up and go about 4.5 hours, and I could see where the floods was. So we had rain, and then the rain was going south towards LA. That's the direction we had to go. So we could see a full map, and we could see what areas they have a flood advisory and stuff. And I have never been in a flood where I'm driving and the flooding happens from the creeks. So there are mountains, and in the mountains there are creeks, and the creeks could flood, right? And I was very intrigued by that, because I was like, what am I supposed to do? I've seen nor'easters, hurricanes, I have been in the same, city when the tsunami happened. I didn't go see the tsunami in Chennai, the big one. And then I have seen, small earthquakes. And I know what the preparation for those are, right? And so I did not know. So it was very interesting that uh, they are showing the map. There's live data, and you can look at that. But my gut was, there are real people living in these places. What is really happening? So if I go to Twitter, somebody might say something or complain something, but I was just thinking, real people have moved out, or they evacuated, or they're waiting, and they have experience of how this thing happens. And I ended up talking to my colleagues here in LinkedIn who live in this neighborhood and had very good advice. So it all ended up good, and I ended up, driving here and coming here. And but that was kind of an interesting thing where I talk about it, and I'm one of those people where I'm talking about stuff and I want to be authentic about it. So when I'm talking to you about AI, I'm not just going to read stuff and just consolidate that and give it to you. I'm not one of those people who says these 10 things happened or 5 things happened and here are the links. That's not my thing. I need to touch it, feel it, break it, and figure out what is happening and like create a new piece of art to present to you. And so that was something that is staying as a question mark. Like, what do we do with the data that we have and the graphs that we are presented? And so now when we're thinking about LLM and chatbots and the whole, how the generative AI is trying to get us closer to a more authentic world, so you can have, like, a more spatial sense with the promise from Gemini. We are getting the AI to be having functionality which will get us closer to real living experience. At the same time, it is not just the models, right? The models can have spatial sense. Instead of the maps, maybe I could have something more visual. Maybe in a real time, like a location share, I can go, zoom myself and put in myself in that place and see what that experience is. There are a lot of possibilities, but it calls on you. If you are a product manager, if you are a designer, especially, I think this is a big call for UX designers, visual designers of all kinds. Not just building AR, VR, and tech sense, right? Where technology is very, very important. But how do we take the technology, productize it to a problem that you want to solve? In this case, I want to know what is happening, and there are many other people who are in that whole zone who want to know what is the guidance, what should we be doing. So I get linear guidance from weather.com, what the county has said, map, an interactive map which was beautifully done. I was very impressed by the real time integration and all that stuff. But what does that mean? That was my whole thing. Can I just hold? I just want to do one thing for 1 second, because I'm going to adjust my camera. It's getting darker. 1 second. Okay, I'm just going to stay put, guys. I'm sorry. It's dark everywhere, so as long as you can see my face, I think it's okay. So that was one pondering I had, and then I did the LinkedIn course and stuff. So what I'm doing now is, I'm going to show you, like, a bunch of jobs, and then for those of you who are on LinkedIn, if you like this, what you're saying, you can send me some love, show me some emojis, or if you have questions or comments related to that, you can ask. I'll come back. I'm actually going to come back again and look at the questions, and answer your questions. I'm going to share some of these links. But everything that I am talking here, all the jobs that I'm listing, every topic related links, all the opportunities, all of them will be shared on Sudha Live, in the Jamte newsletter. So this event, Sudha Live, that I'm doing on recording, we will take this, embed that into the Jamte newsletter, and then all the links from there we'll put it on Jamte newsletter. So it bit.ly/Jamte newsletter. So if you're following that, not following that, following that, that is the place where you'll get all the links. So let me tell you about the jobs. I actually found some interesting jobs, which is for also for students. So some of you are students, and you've told me, do you get student stuff, and call that out separately. And I want to thank Paria Sarin, who puts my newsletter together. And without that, you'll just hear me talk, and you won't get all the links. So thank you, Paria. So there is a set of jobs. There is this research job from postfix, post research associate from Texas A&M. There is Lilapa, I think it's called Lilapa, has a bunch of jobs, data officer, several more technology jobs. And then I ended up visiting SAE Institute, which is about autonomous vehicles and connected vehicles autonomy. And I found that they have a student scholarship. It's only for US people. If you're you have to be a US resident. But any student who wants to be working in this automotive industry, they have a scholarship. So you should check it out. I think that has a deadline that is coming up pretty soon. So you should check that out. And then Microsoft has a disability scholarship, and that is also got an immediate deadline coming up in early March. There's a few more jobs. I'm not just going to read out a list, but this actually I felt was important enough with immediate deadlines. Rest of it we'll find it in the Jamte newsletter. um, and then the other thing I found was there's a bunch of calls and stuff. I'm not going to read them out again, but Andre Karpate has done a very, very nice, if you look at their um, YouTube, there is a whole 2 hour lesson on tokenizing. So in LLM, one of the things that you do is large language models just store, they take data, which is a lot of language, right? Documents, and chunk it into words. And then they actually don't take each word as a token, but they chunk the words into tokens. And then they are trained. And so in their memory, they have a connection of words to different words in relation to different words as numbers, right, and vectors. That's how they store it. And then and it becomes a neural network. And then when we actually say, when we go chat with ChatGPT or Gemini, or Nvidia has this new chatbot, when we, or any of the chatbots that comes, like there's hundreds of chatbots that are rolled out by my friend Ken Heron from UIB. So when you have chatbots, you're chatting, essentially you're doing LLM, there's LLM on the back end, and it is going and fetching that right word from its memory. That's how we're interacting. That's the big thing with LLM and generative AI. And the the crux of doing that is called tokenization, the core of training, right? When you interact with the chatbot, it's fine. You chat in English, it talks to you in English, or you chat in Hausa, and it can reply to you in Hausa. It doesn't matter what language you're talking, right? But if you're uh, building something, or you're trying to bring a new language into the mix, right? So one of my projects is with Susanna Raj and Ine Yenki to get Bari language from South Sudan into the mix, to get machine translation. And for that we have to do tokenization, and this was godsend, because this was perfect, because uh, it does such a good job. So I would recommend definitely looking at that, and I'll put it in the newsletter, and I'll also put it here in the link here. And so the in terms of what happened dynamically, I was telling you while I was recording about generative AI. This happened also when in April I'd worked a lot and published my book, which became the textbook, right, my generative AI, a primer for product and business managers book. And I had launched it in time for my class, my Stanford AI class, and started teaching in April. And within that 5 weeks of my class, things happened. There were new launches almost every day. And it was very, very interesting, because I had to keep in touch with all of them and update my students, because my students are not going to take dated stuff and go away. And so I'm thankful for that, but it was a lot of work, right? So I felt the same way, because I don't want to be recording something and talking about generative AI, and there's something new that's happening that week, right? So that is what I'm going to bring for you just now, before we finish up. So one thing is that people ask me, um, what kind of model, especially people in enterprise who are building chatbots or some application on top of generative AI, say, what should I go with? Should I go with OpenAI because we have data scientists who have got this $20 membership on Playground, and they are showing me what is possible with OpenAI. But should we go with OpenAI or any of the big company models? What's the right option, right? Or should there's so much happening in the open source world, and should we go to open source? And so I'm not going to answer that question. It's a bigger question to answer, because I don't think you should be thinking of open source or not open source. You should be thinking as a business person, in various different dimensions. Or what are you trying to do? Why you're trying to do? What is it? Is this going to solve your problem? And the other various different business considerations. I can't do justice to that just yet here, but there is a lot of stuff happening in the open source world. Last week, I told you about Aya from Cohere. Cohere is not open source. Aya is open source. They have launched this, and they had 3,000 uh, researchers from various different parts of the world who brought in data set for 100 plus languages. I believe it's 101. Somebody correct me if that number is wrong, because there's 3,000 of you out there and many of you are on my network. I would like to know what that number is. And they've created all the pieces needed, the data set and all the tiny pieces of technologies to actually do the tokenization, vectorization, to go build the pre-training, to build the machine translation for various languages, right? So that is open source. And we had Pierre come in at Weekly Wed a couple months back and talk about Mistral 7B. And I've told you Mistral 7B has like a new version of it called Mistral 7B Instruct, which you can run straight from a laptop. So there's a lot of stuff happening in the open source world. I'm not even talking about small language models, right? And so this week, Google has launched something called Gemma, and it is an open source. And you can go check it out. That's an open source model from Google. So I think I think OpenAI is the only company who's not given us anything in open source, and maybe they'll give us something. We'll wait and watch. And OpenAI gave us Sora last week about uh, creating videos generation for 60 seconds. I got a whole bunch of different demos and things around it. One interesting thing I saw was 11 Labs. 11 Labs is the company which does like voice generation and voiceover. And they took all the Sora videos, which were kind of empty, like quiet videos, right? They were videos, but they were just the image part of the video, right? And it was quiet, and they added a voiceover to the guy who's sitting on the cloud, the three puppies who are coming out in the snow, all the different examples we saw from Sora. They took every one of them and then they added voiceover. It's beautiful now. And that lady who is walking with a whole bunch of people with her reflection showing in the road as she's walking and stuff. All of them, they just got voice, they got music. It's beautiful. So you should check it out. 11 Labs. They are the leaders, I believe, in this voiceover space. And again, correct me if there's somebody else I'm missing. I should check it out. So that was interesting. I saw some research papers also related to vision. So vision and related to LLM, that same kind of approach is picking up. One interesting thing I heard, I think, on the Gamma model is back to our UX designer friends. Is it is not just there's a whole concept of how everything in generative AI is about getting input, right? We give a prompt and it generates an image. We give a prompt and chat and it chats back. And so it's kind of everything has a interface with the human, right? And so if you see in all the chats, they will have a thumbs up, thumbs down, because they're collecting the feedback from the user, whether that was the right thing. And Gemma has shown that we can go back to old reinforced learning, a very different approach on how you can get user feedback to kind of tighten the loop of learning of the AI so that it serves you right. And so I think this is a big deal for the UX designer world. So for those of you from Barcelona Technology School who have been with me on the AIX and UX design class. We are going to talk about this and see what are you going to do? How are you going to come in and build stuff on top of all these moving parts that's coming out every day, at least with LLMs and generative AI? What's the approach by which we can actually get user feedback and create the right UX flow? Let me see if I'm missing something. So that was the thing. The Gemma was a big thing. Sora, the 11 labs with Sora was interesting. Oh, there was one other piece of news. So we've been talking from AI ethics in various different dimensions, and one thing that everybody agrees, some people are working to fix it, like Joy Biolomini is working to move uh, the world of regulation on facial recognition to be more inclusive. But one thing we've accepted, I wouldn't say accepted, we kind of accepted the news that Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, all of them who are creating images are doing it with public data out from the internet, and they're not caring enough to make it inclusive. So I have published research with two other colleagues on the cameras that see us and our faces, facial recognition inside the vehicle for autonomous vehicles. You have it in the Tesla vehicle where the camera watches you and decides whether you're safe enough to give you control. And well before Tesla even came up with this, we had published this research on the camera. As soon as we know there's a camera, it was not yet turned on at that point, we said if the camera is going to start watching us, what is the repercussion if it is not inclusive? And so we came up with two different research papers, one on movement inside the vehicle and other on faces. And especially the more darker color your face is, then facial recognition fails you miserably. What does it mean if it is in the car? So this is my published research, so if you go look at my Google Scholar, you'll find that. And I've done this with Yashashwini Vishwanath and Suresh Lokaya. And so now the whole vision models that are coming, like with Stable Diffusion and Midjourney, we just assumed yes, all those models are biased and they're not going to be, they are going to be racist. Essentially, when you try to build, faces and stuff. And so the funny thing that happened, should not call it funny, but I find it funny that Google has launched their vision models. Right, it is Imagen, it is part of. It's actually integrated in several places, but you see that in Gemini. And I can't even tell you the kind of prompts people put out there, because then this will not pass YouTube's approval to keep the video. But there people are always trying to push the system and break the AI. I tell my students to break it, but there is like a uh, uh, choice of how you break it and how you want to turn your AI to be more racist, or how do you test the boundary, right? Um, so essentially, some people found that Google's vision model was racist, but this time it was not racist according to them against people of color. They basically were saying when you ask it to do white people's faces, it does not give us enough white people, and so my guess is somebody in the team said, oh, we are going to fine tune this for political correctness and make sure that we get a lot of faces which is not only white faces, because that's what most models would do. And they kind of took it to an extreme. So this concept of fine tuning is what you do to take an LLM, give it a set of data, do a set of supervised learning on it to change the last layer of its learning, so that now it will not be racist or homophobic. It will not use slurs it has learned from its training from internet data, from Reddit or something, right? And so that's what all the companies are doing to do the fine tuning. So they must have done fine tuning to an extreme. And so that came up, and I saw the news saying this was racist, and I was like, yes. And then it turned out to be, yes, it is racist in some sense if it doesn't equally represent all the races, so you could call it racist. And so we ended up, not me, but I saw the news that Google said, okay, we'll pull it out, we'll fix it, bring it back, because everything is on the cloud. They can fix it, do another round of fine tuning, test it, and put it out. And so that's what they're doing in a lot of the LLM companies. They have done built based on foundation models that is trained on internet data, which is very bad, right? And so the way they're dealing with this is they said this called red teaming. So they actually figure out all the bad ways by which it can turn against humanity and be called out, like this model. And so even the Sora model, they said OpenAI is trying to do a very controlled test on various boundaries of what it will draw, what it will not draw. I personally found one thing very interesting with the Google model is I asked Imagen, which is Google's vision model, to draw a scene of a road. So this was by prompting, and I said, "Draw me a road. Show people with a car going, an autonomous vehicle is going on the road, and there are people on either side, and there are some people who are there is one person who's crossing the road." So what I wanted to show was some picture of a pedestrian crossing the road and the autonomous vehicle stopping. So when I did this prompt, the AI, the supposedly racist AI, which has been pulled out temporarily, I hope, refused to draw that picture for me, because it has been fine tuned to not draw harmful situations. So maybe people would show that, pedestrian gets hit and people are killed, and they don't want to show that. So they said, this is a harmful situation. We will show you a pedestrian crossing safely at the pedestrian walk. We will not show them crossing in the middle of the road. And I said, okay, I'm going to change my prompt. The car is driving, it's an autonomous vehicle. The pedestrian is crossing in the middle of the road, and the autonomous vehicle stops, and now the pedestrian has crossed the road safely, and everybody is happy, right? It's a picture. So how do you know whether the car has stopped or not, or as long as it's not hitting the pedestrian? I said that, and Gemini was very smart and said, "Oh, I see what you're doing here. I understand that it is a safe situation, but I still can't do this for you. I can only give you a pedestrian who would cross at a pedestrian crossing." So that model, I never tested it to make faces of people. So somebody did that. So it's very, very interesting that we have the power to do that, right? To go, that's what I tell all of you, those of you who are hearing about every single new thing in the AI world. You are the training data. Your face is a training data for everything out there, and your imagination is the limit, because with every generative AI out there, you're just telling it to do stuff and it will do it, or talk back like like Gemini did with me, and you learn something, right? And I'm thinking, how would they do that? Oh, they've done fine tuning. And so it kind of adds up, because I've been doing these webinars on LLM, so I kind of know you can do fine tuning, you can do RAG, and what are different approaches. So I kind of go back. And so before I close out for today, everything we are sharing here is going to be in the Jamte newsletter. Thank you, Peria. Again, it will go out on Monday, my time, California time, on Monday night. And we also have this weekly wed speaker series. We have the CTO of Latimer, which is LLM which has been trained with Black history data, and so it will not be racist. And it gives a lot of information. I found it very, very useful. February is especially Black History Month, and I learned a lot. I even asked it to tell me what kind of things should I be looking at to learn Black history, and then I said, what about Black history here, and what about this other place, and a lot of different stuff. I like history, so it taught me stuff, and it was very polite, and it's a LLM, so you can keep chatting with it, and it can take you places. So Latimer CTO is going to come talk to us at Weekly Wed. We learn something, and Weekly Wed will be hosted by Yash Yashwini Vishwanath, and so I'm looking forward to that. So if you want to come in and learn something, it's a Zoom session, or we'll be streaming live. We'll be streaming at Business School of AI here. This is my personal streams, which I do on Fridays. But if you follow Business School of AI on LinkedIn here, you'll automatically get all the streams. So do that, and otherwise sign up and get the Zoom. and we limit that to like less number of people so that we can have a closed room conversation and all that stuff. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. I think I've shared about what's happening in the world of Gen AI with open source, especially call for UX designers. And if you're a UX designer and you're thinking, what is my role here? How do I get into this space? What do I learn? Talk to me. I'm here to help you. And the bunch of jobs I shared, they all have short deadlines. So check it out, guys. And I will make sure there's more jobs that all of them are added to the newsletter. So because I'm doing this sitting in the dark, close to the beach, but can't show you the beach, I can't really go look at LinkedIn, and I'm doing this literally from my phone. I'm not kidding. And so I've not been able to be as interactive on LinkedIn. I apologize, but I'm going to go right after this and go check and share some of the links. And if you're watching this, tag a friend. If you come back, see it, tag a friend, ask a question, come back and ask me questions. If you're working in any of this space, we are talking about UX design. What does it mean in this LLM world? We're talking about vision models. We're talking about open source models, how every company except OpenAI has put models in open source, and what does that mean? We did not go deeper into the open source versus closed platform. How do you make a decision? And there is no straightforward answer. Like in the business world, there is no one right answer, right? So that's why we have not covered that. And I started with my driving experience in the middle of a flood, and the flood is all gone. I showed you that, the picture, the video I put in earlier in LinkedIn was about me going to the beach. So that data that we are sharing with all these LLMs, promising spatial understanding and real-time data from all the sensors. So the world of sensors with IoT tracking everything, and and our weather, all of them coming together, we have actually come to a place where we have it. Now we need to build it, guys. We need to build this into viable product to solve real problems. And my problem of how do I know in real time where the flooding is cannot be a map, and here's the red spot. I'm going to drive and I don't go through this red spot. I'll find an alternate route. It's not going to cut it for me. I want something more interactive, like I would interact with a human being in a real world. If the chatbot is going to be like a human being, I want the AI to be a human being to get my data in a way I can consume it. So, with that thought, I'm going to leave you. So, if you work in the UX design space or in product management, how would you do that? What are you doing to take this chatbot interface of LLMs and all the data to solve for real world problems? And if you're doing something like that, talk to me. Maybe you can come show us at Weekly Wed, or if you have answers, we can, I'll learn from you, or we'll go figure out, how to move the space, right? Because that's the beauty in tech ecosystems. This is all evolving. The beauty, if you're new to Gen AI or even AI, don't worry. It's a great time to get started. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you, everybody. And I will see you all next week. I will see you at Weekly Wed. Maybe I'll see you here at the live stream, or I'll see you next Friday at Sudha Live. Stay safe, have fun, have a wonderful weekend wherever you are in the world, and I will see you soon. Bye. I just need to figure out how do I stop the stream in here. Okay, I see it. Okay, bye guys. Bye.